Have you ever noticed how you can understand English pretty well? You can read it, you can listen to it, you can even think, yes, I know this word, I know this grammar. And then the moment you actually have to speak, your throat gets tight, your mind goes blank, and suddenly you feel like you sound like a different person, like your real personality disappears in English. And you start playing this stressful game in your head where you're trying to be correct, trying to be impressive, trying to not make a mistake, trying to not waste the other person's time. And the crazy part is, it's not that you don't know English. It's that your nervous system is treating English like a threat. A lot of my adult students describe this exact feeling. They tell me, Tom, I feel confident in my job. I'm competent. I'm smart. I have ideas. But in English, I feel like a child. And they hate that feeling. Not because they can't say every sentence perfectly, but because they feel smaller. And the truth is that stress and fear doesn't just affect your mood, it directly affects your fluency. Because when you're tense, you don't access language smoothly. Your brain stops playing. It stops taking risks. It stops flowing. You start translating, checking, editing, and judging every sentence before it even comes out. And then you wonder why you can't speak naturally. So today, I want to help you relax. Not with some fake, just be confident advice. I want to give you a real shift that I've seen make a difference for adults who already have a decent level of English, but feel blocked when it's time to speak. And I want you to keep one idea in mind as we go. The goal is not to speak perfect English. The goal is to feel safe speaking English, because when you feel safe, your English comes out. When you don't, even your best English gets trapped inside your head. Let me tell you what I see most often. The biggest stress trigger for English learners is the feeling of being evaluated. Even in a friendly conversation, it can feel like a test. You feel like the other person is listening for mistakes. And maybe sometimes they are, but most of the time they're not. Most native speakers are not sitting there grading your grammar. They're trying to understand you, and they're deciding if you're a warm person, a clear person, a trustworthy person, a person they can work with. In real life, communication is about connection, not perfection. Think about how you feel when someone speaks your language as a non-native speaker. Do you judge them for mistakes, or do you respect them for trying? Usually, you respect them. You listen harder. You help them. You fill in the missing meaning. You focus on what they mean, not how perfect they are. Native speakers do that too, more than you think. But when you're nervous, you imagine the worst. You imagine people thinking, wow, their English is bad. And that imagined judgment makes your body tense up. Here's a simple truth that sounds obvious, but changes everything when you really accept it. Your English does not need to be perfect to be successful. It needs to be clear enough. That's it. Clear enough. And clear enough is not a high bar. Clear enough means the other person understands your main point without too much effort. That's the goal in a meeting. That's the goal when you're traveling. That's the goal when you're making small talk at a party. Clear enough. Now, I want to talk about overthinking, because overthinking is the #1 fluency killer for intermediate and advanced learners. Beginners usually don't overthink as much because they know they don't know. But once you're intermediate, you know enough to have options. You can say it this way or that way, and you start searching for the best way, the perfect way, the most native way. And while you're searching, the moment passes. The conversation moves on. and then you feel even more stressed because you missed your chance. So, let me give you a mindset that I teach. Don't aim for the best sentence. Aim for the first natural sentence, the first one that communicates your meaning. In real conversation, native speakers don't sit there choosing the best sentence. We start talking, and we adjust while we're talking. We say something, we correct ourselves, we add a detail, we change a word. That's normal. That's how speech works. Spoken English is not a finished product. It's a live process. If you want to relax, you have to give yourself permission to speak in drafts. In your head, stop thinking, I need to say the perfect sentence. Start thinking, I'm going to say a simple version first, and if I need to, I'll add more. That one change lowers pressure immediately. It also helps you stop translating, because translating usually happens when you're trying to be perfect. You're trying to match the sentence from your language. But English doesn't need to match. It needs to make sense. By the way, if you're enjoying this and you want more episodes like this, go ahead and subscribe. And if you feel comfortable, leave a quick comment about where you feel the most stress speaking English. Is it meetings, phone calls, small talk, interviews, talking to strangers? I read those, and it helps me make episodes that actually fit your real life. And if you know someone who understands English but freezes when they speak, share this with them. That situation is so common, and people feel alone in it, but they're not. Now let's get more practical. One big reason English feels stressful is because you feel trapped in the conversation. You feel like you have to respond quickly. And quick response is hard when you're translating, checking grammar, and worrying about mistakes. So, what do? You either stay quiet, or you speak very fast and very messy, or you speak very slowly and feel awkward. And none of those feels good. What you need is a set of natural pause tools. Native speakers pause all the time. We pause to think. We pause to choose words. We pause because we're human. The difference is we don't apologize for it. We don't panic. We just pause. If you can learn to pause comfortably, your anxiety drops. And when your anxiety drops, your brain works better. So in real life, especially at work, give yourself permission to slow down and use simple thinking phrases. Things like, let me think for a second, or that's a good question, or how should I say this? Or even, give me a moment. These are not signs of weak English. These are signs of a normal speaker thinking. And they buy you time. They turn a scary silence into a normal pause. I've seen students transform just from this. Because once you realize you're allowed to think, you stop racing. And when you stop racing, you stop panicking. And when you stop panicking, you stop translating word by word. You start speaking idea by idea. Let's talk about mistakes, because fear of mistakes is really fear of embarrassment. It's not the mistake itself. It's the feeling that a mistake says something about you, that you're not smart, that you're not professional, that you don't belong. But that's a story your brain is telling, not reality. In real life, small mistakes rarely matter. You might say he instead of she. You might forget the past tense. You might use the wrong preposition. You might say, I am, agree, instead of, I agree. These mistakes are common. And you know what happens? Usually nothing. People still understand. Or they ask a quick question. Or they ignore it and move on. The conversation survives. And here's something I want you to remember. Native speakers make mistakes constantly. We restart sentences. We say the wrong word. We mix up names. We forget what we were saying. We say, like, you know, we talk in incomplete sentences. The difference is we don't call them mistakes. We call it talking. So when you judge yourself harshly for being imperfect, you're holding yourself to a higher standard than native speakers hold themselves. Confidence comes from surviving mistakes, not avoiding them. If you try to avoid every mistake, you'll speak less, you'll take fewer risks, and you'll stay stuck. But if you speak more and you realize, oh, I made a mistake and the world didn't end, your fear starts to shrink. Your brain learns, this is safe. Now let's talk about thinking in English, because translating is exhausting. Translating makes you slow, it makes you sound less natural, and it increases stress because you're doing two jobs at once. But I also want to be realistic. You can't just flip a switch and stop translating. It's a habit, and the way you change it is not by forcing it. It's by building an English track in your mind that becomes stronger than the translation track. Here's what helps. Start with simple inner English, not complex thoughts, simple thoughts. When you're doing normal life, try to label your experience in English in short phrases. I'm making coffee. I'm running late. I need to reply to that email. That was a long day. I don't feel like cooking. Just small, real sentences. This is how you build automatic English. Because you're not translating a big, complicated idea. You're practicing direct connection between life and English. And when you speak, focus on meaning first, not grammar first. Ask yourself, what is my point? What do I want them to understand? Then say that in a simple way. If your grammar isn't perfect, it's fine. If you need to add a detail, add it. But lead with meaning. Meaning first creates fluency. Grammar perfection creates hesitation. Let me give you a work example, because a lot of adults feel the most stress at work. Imagine you're in a meeting and someone asks for your opinion. If your brain goes into perfection mode, you might try to create a beautiful answer. You might think, I need to sound professional. I need advanced vocabulary. I need the right structure. And then you freeze. Instead, give yourself a simple structure that you can use almost anywhere. Start with your main message. Then one reason. Then a small example if needed. It might sound like, I think this is a good idea because it saves time. For example, we can reduce steps in the process. That's enough. That's professional. That's clear. That's real English. And once you say the first sentence, the rest often becomes easier because you're already speaking. Travel is another great example. When you're traveling, you don't need perfect English. You need functional English. You need calm English. You need to be able to ask, clarify, and repeat. And you need to not panic if you don't understand something. Because not understanding is normal, even for native speakers in noisy places. So, if you don't understand, don't pretend. Don't smile and guess if it matters. Just say, sorry, could you say that again? Or, can you speak a little slower? Or, what does that mean? Those are confident sentences. A confident speaker asks for clarity. A nervous speaker tries to hide confusion. And hiding creates more stress. Now let's touch on identity, because this is deeper than language. Many adult learners feel like they lose their personality in English. They can't be funny. They can't be sharp. They can't be warm in the same way. And that's frustrating. But here's what I've seen. Your personality comes back when your nervous system relaxes. It comes back when you stop trying to perform and start trying to connect. At first, your English personality might be simpler, more direct, maybe quieter. That's okay. That's not the final version of you. That's you in progress. And as you speak more, you'll find new ways to express yourself. Different jokes, different style, different rhythm. Not worse, just different. And eventually, it starts feeling like you again. So, how do you relax and speak without stress or fear in a real, practical way? You shift the goal from impressing to connecting. You accept clear enough instead of perfect. You speak in drafts. You pause like a normal speaker. You let mistakes happen, and you notice that you survive them. You train small inner English, so translation slowly fades. And you put yourself in more low-pressure conversations, so your brain learns that English is safe. And I want to end with something I tell my students all the time. Fluency is not a talent. It's a comfort level. The more comfortable you are, the more fluent you sound. And comfort is something you can build. You build it the same way you build trust with a person. Through repetition, through positive experiences, through patience, through showing up even when it's not perfect. So, the next time you feel that tight feeling before you speak, take a small breath and remind yourself, I'm not taking a test. I'm having a human moment. I'm allowed to pause. I'm allowed to be simple. I'm allowed to make mistakes. And I'm still a competent adult, even if my sentence isn't perfect. Keep speaking. Keep it simple. Keep it human. And little by little, English stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a tool. And when that happens, you don't just speak more fluently, you live more freely,